It's coming in the coming days. That's what we're told, that the transfers will happen in the coming days. Now, for those of you that are stuck on my transfer Twitter feed yesterday, some of you were saying that, Tom's having a baby. That's the big thing that's going on in Tom's world. I can tell you that it's not, but I've told the missus that it will happen in the coming days. So that should tie over for at least a few years. This is the Arsenal Transfer Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal Transfer Show. Back with you guys for another episode of I've just said that. What's going on? I'm on repeat. The cassette stuck in the tape for our younger listeners. Do some reading on what a cassette tape is. Good morning to those joining us in the chat box. Thank you as always for doing so. Stephen, Josh, Carlton, Matt, James, Simon, Runs with Cows, Roy, Ismail, Josh, Maximius, Temi, Dave, Paul, Shari, we've got Patton, Dellen, Rich, Jack, Angela, Rob, Jakob, Stevie, Mark, Ameka, Tony, Brad. We've got Amira, Rob, Simple Unity, Louis, Jim, Tom, and plenty more of you guys and girls as well. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Really appreciate your time. I hope you're having a fantastic week so far. It's Friday, which is very, very merciful. I don't know what it is. I feel like I've been working non-stop for to be fair, I have been working non-stop for the last 4 years, but I feel like particularly this week has been just very hectic. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at the game, then Thursday it was it's extended from the weekend. It just feels hectic, and now I've got a couple of days to regather, to refresh, to recharge. And I'm sure that you guys and girls in the chat box as well are going to be enjoying your weekends, hopefully. To anybody that's going to the game on Sunday as well, which I'm looking forward to also getting to. Yes, hope you've had a fantastic weekend. You're doing good and well. Please help us on our way to 1K every day. Even on yesterday's show, and I told you yesterday that, our Raw Reaction shows are, it's harder to raise up the bar for the likes. And, we didn't reach 2K, which I'm not complaining about, because in 2 days we reached more than 5,000 likes on the previous two shows, because you mad people just wanted to continue to try and push it to more than 2K. But yesterday's show still got well over 1,500 likes, which is crazy. So thank you for that. But good morning to those joining us in the chat, and I'll be getting to you in part 2 with your questions. But first, we're going to jump into today's stories, and we start with Chido Obi-Martin. We're still not done talking about him. We are still on this story. Of course, we're expecting the full confirmation of his switch to Manchester United to be made very soon. However, The Athletic have reported that Arsenal and Manchester United are in negotiations over the compensation fee that will be paid to Arsenal for the transfer. Of course, young players, when they switch, fees still need to be paid. Compensation fees still need to be paid as well. And the expectation is Arsenal will, they'll be looking to try and get as much as they can from this situation after developing him. But he was only at the club for a couple of years. So you shouldn't expect huge fees. It's not like this was a player, of course, that came through the academy from, single digits. It is, and he has only been at the club for a short period of time. So ultimately, we aren't expecting it to be a massive amount of money at all. Moving into other stories, and there's not loads, I'll be honest with you. There's not loads today. But there's the stories that are here to discuss are kind of like, sizable updates. And Eddie Nketiah has, of course, been the focus of much of yesterday evening's discussions, because Marseille have reopened talks with Arsenal to try and secure a deal with Arsenal for Eddie Nketiah. And it is also it's very much it's a move that I hope sees us not compromise too much. We were very strong the other day when we talked about how Arsenal standing firm, Arsenal being principled on their valuation of a player was important, and it is important. I know that I think it was a pretty even split, I feel as though, I think we did that poll, didn't we? And a lot of you, I think in the end, are very small weighted to the majority that they'd rather have just kind of sold for that 20, 5 million euros or whatever it was back then. And the other half were like, no, stay firm on the valuation, wait until we can get what we want. And I very much was on that side. I think we should stay firm on our valuation. I'll be disappointed if we don't get £25 million. Suggestions are that 25 million euros, which is about £21 million, is being discussed. I really hope it's not that, because, yeah, I really hope it's not that. I'd want us to see. Does anybody have sympathy in some ways? Because, of course, we might need to move Eddie on to bring in a forward player. That's it. But it'll be a frustration if we end up getting less money than maybe we would have done had we have secured the deal earlier. But I think there is still some twists and turns to this deal. I still think there's a bit of a twist to happen. I think that there is other clubs in the mix. And I think that there are other teams that may come forwards with the weeks that remain. There could be other moves happening, which then cause something of a domino effect. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I think there's still a twist to come in this story. Mikel Merino continues to be the headline act in terms of incomings right now from an Arsenal perspective, unsurprisingly so. And yesterday you were delivered more news that talks are continuing. Doesn't feel like an update particularly, does it? I feel like we've been, this has been the line for the last month, that talks are just continuing, and talks are ongoing, and that personal terms have been agreed for some time, and that we should hopefully get a breakthrough soon. And I hope that we get a breakthrough soon. I really, really do. But I'm not I'm not suggesting that it's going to happen today or tomorrow or this weekend. I'm just hoping for this deal to, if it is to happen, to just start getting a bit of a move on. Of course, the suggestions are that obviously Arsenal will just continue to have these discussions surrounding structures of payments, etc. But it is what it is, and hopefully it gets done. He, of course, was left out of the squad to face Union Berlin. Real Sociedad playing a friendly tomorrow. Mikel Merino is not in the squad, which, of course, did prompt naturally a lot of people to jump onto the idea of the fact that they might be doing so. He might not be in the squad because he's in this situation with Arsenal. And because of that, he's not there. But from what we've been able to glean from Spanish reports, and I think Ryan Taylor Sport as well also reported this yesterday, was that actually this is a genuine injury, and that there is an expectation that his lack of inclusion here is specifically, in fact, I'll read you Ryan's tweet, told by Real Sociedad club sources that Mikel Merino has been unable to complete the past two training sessions, and therefore is not ready to play tomorrow against Union Berlin after being left out of travelling squad. Workload is being managed and call not linked to Arsenal interest. He trained as well, it's worth pointing out. Ryan's got some very good sources, so I have no reason to doubt that is the case. But the Mikel Merino situation, we hope to get something of an update on. I can see a lot of you in the chat box are, talking about David Ornstein's tweet, which just dropped a few seconds ago, which is that Bournemouth have agreed to sell Dominic Solanke for a club record fee, and talks with Tottenham Hotspur continue to finalise a transfer. Personal terms are in place, and the striker is desperate to complete the move. Another Arsenal fan moving to Tottenham. But this is where I think there could be something of a twist, and this is why I bring back Eddie Nketiah to your screens. I think that there is something here. I think you could see maybe Bournemouth have a look at the Nketiah situation, and they could look to see him as Solanke's replacement. I think it'd be a move that Nketiah would also welcome to stay in the Premier League, play for another Premier League club under a very good coach, under Iraola. So, yeah, I think it's certainly one to consider, to keep your eyes peeled to. I think Bournemouth may be the twist in the tail for Nketiah. Let's see what happens. There is no twists and there is no stings when it comes to NordVPN, however, because they will provide you the safety and security that you need online and keep you away from being potentially stung by those pesky little trackers that keep trying to take a look at your data. If you go to nordvpn.com/Gooner, you can get yourself a significant discount off a 1 or a 2 year plan, and you get 4 months extra months thrown in free on top of that 2-year plan too. All the details can be found in the link in today's video description, but it's nordvpn.com/Gooner. Go over there to get yourself all the details that you need. And as I say, yeah, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you're not happy with it for whatever reason, you can cancel. I don't know why you would. You need a VPN for the new season, and Nord is the way to go. Don't waste your time with the free ones that just don't deliver. Bring yourself an investment in this and help support the channel, of course, as well. Right, let's go to part 2 and your questions right after this. Okay, this is part 2 of the show where we go into the chat box and tackle some of your thoughts, queries, questions, and theories. And I'm very happy to do so. So make sure you drop a like before we go any further, of course, as well. Please do help support the channel. It really does help us out. And if you're listening on audio platforms, thank you for catching up, and do leave us a very kind 5-star review. And if you're on iTunes, you can actually leave a written review. And there's been some very nice things said of late too. If you're not an iTunes listener, maybe you want to hop over there anywhere and just say some kind things about us. Right, let's jump to the chat box then and tackle some of these questions. I'm an organist, Tom. I understand getting as much as we can for Nketiah, and I agree with that, but surely we have to be realistic. I think that 25 million is realistic. I don't think it's, I don't think it is too much to ask at all, to be honest. Especially when there could be potentially other clubs that are looking at the player as well. I think that's something to consider. Southport Gooner says, Tom, Eddie is just not good enough for our front line. We have to cash in now. £22 million, I feel, is a good fee. And I think this is the split. You're just seeing 2 comments there. The split that exists. So some people are willing to accept less because they kind of just want to see the end of this saga. And others, like myself, think that maybe we can get a bit more and should try to get a bit more as well. K. Dotway says these deals are elaborate and with a lot of money on the table, FFP and other stipulations, it takes time, but I respect other people's views. I think that was in response to somebody else earlier on. And Kwame says it's unprofessional. Arsenal and Merino transfer should have been done a long time ago. I don't think it's unprofessional, mate. I think it's very normal. It's a very, very strange window, this one. And Arsenal, of course, are... And if you've been, listening to the right people, you'll know that this deal has not been a simple one, and that Arsenal aren't necessarily, entirely unanimously on board with this. There's been, discussions, there's been doubts, there's been questions of one another and kind of whether or not this is the right player to go to. And that's a good thing. You want to have people questioning decisions. You want to have people that aren't afraid to say, we don't want a group of yes men at the club. That's never been the case. We don't want that. We don't want a group of yes men at the club. We want people to be taken account and accountability for our actions, and you want people to question moves, and you want to be able to convince one another that it is the right move before making that jump. And I like that. So no, Kwame, it's not unprofessional in any way, shape or form. This is a very normal process that's been going on. And if you're a fan of Arsenal, this is the way that they do business. And if you look at the club that we've built, the squad that we've built, you know that it's a very good process because look at the team that we have. Dancing Bear says, do you think Arteta is playing Havertz in midfield because he is planning to buy a striker? No, I don't. I think it's more so because, of course, Declan Rice has not been back yet. And him gradually working his way back up to fitness means that, we haven't really got too many options for that midfield slot right now. Partey's form and fitness hasn't been great this summer either. So, no, I don't think that's the case. Avinash says, frankly, Nketiah has not scored more than 5 goals in any Premier League season so far. 20 million for me would be a fair valuation for him right now. It's fair to point out that I think if he was at a Bournemouth, I think he would comfortably get over 10 Premier League goals. And I'm quite curious to see if he moves there, how many he does end up scoring. Prince says, I'm hearing that we've agreed a price for Gyökeres. Have you heard anything? Prince, tell us your source, mate. Where have you heard that? I've certainly not heard that. Tell us where you got that information from. Let's go to Baron says, morning, Tom. Fab sounded really certain in his YouTube video yesterday that Merino is pulled out of the squad because of negotiations. So who do we believe? Fab's got very good information and good contacts. And sometimes contacts give different, points of view. Ryan's reporting that, those Sociedad sources are claiming that it is a strain. That seems to be the case. It's not related to the transfer, but who knows? Maybe sources are saying one thing to try and somewhat mask a transfer reality. That could be, something as well. But Ryan's, I'm sure, built up very good connections. Matt G says, morning, Tom. You've been asked this already, but do you think it's likely Sociedad sells Zubimendi and Moreno in the same window? They may not have a choice, Matt, to be honest. They've always sounded very kind of amenable to the Merino exit because he's been at the club a long time. He's given them good service. He's only got a year left on his contract. They'll want to bring in money for him if he leaves, and they get a good fee of over £20 million for him. And so Zubimendi is a release clause. So they may not have much of a choice, Matt. I don't think it is a case of one or the other. They want to keep Zubimendi. I don't think the Zubimendi deal is as straightforward as maybe some people are suggesting. I think that Liverpool will still need to convince him to move. But yeah, let's wait and see. Jay says, I always listen to the show when you release on Spotify. I've got a day off today, though, so I had to catch it live. Keep up the great content. Thanks, Jay. Much appreciate your kind words, mate. Basher says, unpopular opinion, rushing Saliba, Rice and Saka back to training and pre-season games after only 3 weeks off is a mistake that could come back to bite us on the butt. Stones and Foden are still being rested. Obviously, all of the precautions were being taken, Basher. We know that. The club doctors, the physios, everyone is making the right calls. They're the ones that are with the players every single day. They're the ones that do the assessments. And I hope that they are right. I would lean into, their judgment over, ours as fans. But I understand your concerns, and I think you're fair to have those concerns. Lynn says, Tom, by asking too much money, we could end up losing out on money for other players as well. Of course, that's always the risk that you take. But as I've mentioned before, I think it's more important that Arsenal really improve their sales reputation this summer, and it could impact us more in the long term in a negative fashion if we don't. And actually, by standing firm on valuations, you can improve your reputation and get more money for players in the future, which overall is more beneficial. Sharky says, why didn't we move for Zubimendi? What is your opinion on Zubimendi and Moreno? I think it's a very simple one, this. I am struggling with the meltdown about the Zubimendi side of things because Zubimendi is a 6. Merino is an 8. We have 3 6s already and a young guy who can play there too. You've got Rice, Jorginho, Partey, and Miles Lewis-Skelly coming through. And if you look at his option, if he was to choose between Liverpool and Arsenal, it's an obvious choice to pick Liverpool because Liverpool have no 6s. Endo's probably going, and they don't have anybody else. It makes far more sense for him to pick Liverpool than it does for him to pick Arsenal. He's not going to start for Arsenal, but he does start for Liverpool. So, yeah, I think that it's actually quite clear cut why indeed he would favour a move. Also, as I mentioned on yesterday's show, his kind of not rejections, but just Arsenal made kind of approaches, and he just said, yeah, he's happy at Sociedad at that point in time. I think that he's winning the European Championship certainly has changed his mindset, but at that point, Arsenal under Arteta always want players that are desperate to play for them as well. And they often, in their discussions and negotiations with players, they will gauge a willingness of a player, and that will definitely factor in. Like Calafiori, for instance, really wants to play for Arsenal. Mikel Merino, from what we hear, also is dead set on joining Arsenal, which is a big factor in why Arteta is so keen on him too. Ryan says, as an Arsenal fan, we all need to just calm down, breathe, show a Premier League top 3 team who has made massive moves in the market. We are all conservative at the moment. Breathe, Gooners. Just breathe. And this is true. Like, Arsenal, Liverpool and City have not made too many moves at all during this window. And that's because it has not been a market for those clubs. It's been a market for the chasing pack. It's been a market for your Uniteds, your Chelseas, your Spurses. That's been the market. It's been a market for those types of clubs. It's not been a market for clubs that are looking to improve already established title challenging quality. So, yeah, there is a reason why the market has played out the way that it has. Southport says, with West Ham hijacking Todibo, will Juve pursue Kivior? It's an interesting point. If they've missed out on Todibo, maybe Juve will now switch tacks and look at Kivior. He's not the only defender on the market. I hope that we keep Kivior personally. I don't think we need to sell him. And if we do sell him, we probably then need another defender. So I'm hoping that we keep him. Roy says, Tom, do you think the versatility of the players mean that we could see different formations? 3 at the back, wing backs, 4-4-2. Roy, I think that Arteta's formations are never set in stone. They're never like what we put them out on paper to be. He plays in very different fluid styles. And I think that will be, again, the case this forthcoming season. Chris says, hi, Tom, with the sale of Nketiah, more likely the form of Havertz in midfield this pre-season, has your opinion changed that the club is going for a striker now instead of a winger? No, it's not, Chris. I'm very surprised. I'd be very surprised if Arsenal signed a striker during this window. Very, very surprised indeed, more so than anything. Ashley says, do you think friendships of managers help in transfers? Arteta is very close with Iraola and Gary O'Neill. I hope he invites them for a barbecue, convinces them about Nketiah and Bournemouth and Neto and Bentley and Reece and Ramsdale as well. I guess there's an element that's obviously going to help you, the relationships between those coaches, but coaches are professional. They'll always put their club first. It won't ever be to do with friendships. It might help make contacts easier, but ultimately, the managers are going to put their club over any friendship. That's just the way it goes. Ben says that celebration is good enough to sign Gyökeres. I need that plastered all over the Emirates when he scores. Really adds to the marketability of the club. Again, I still think I'd be very surprised to see Gyökeres come through the door. Jack says Zinni and Nketiah at left back on the opening 5 or so games. No Tommy, no Timber, because they're out with niggles at the moment. Arteta and slow and cautious to throw Calafiori in. And that's fine, Jack, to be honest. Like, I think Calafiori is going to play this weekend. I think he's going to get some minutes. So I don't think the opening 5 games is an accurate representation of how long we can expect it just to be Zinni and Nketiah. But Tomiyasu, I don't know when he's going to be back. Timber, I'm told he's going to be back in training soon. So I think 5 games is a little bit pessimistic of the situation. Rob says, I wonder how many of the people who have strong opinions either way about Eddie's transfer fee have any experience in contract negotiations. The classic. Are you manager of Arsenal? Can you have an opinion? You can have an opinion. But of course, there is going to be an element of being, lacking in education about how these situations go down. V says Liverpool are making a bad move by signing Zubimendi. They needed a solid DM, someone who protects that unstable defence, especially Van Dijk and Trent. Liverpool should have gone for someone like Fofana. I mean, I disagree. Zubimendi is an excellent 6. Fofana's not a 6 for just out of just profiling. He's a box-to-box midfielder. Is Yusuf Fofana? He can play as a 6, but his primary position for me is playing as a box-to-box midfielder. Zubimendi is an excellent piece of business for Liverpool if indeed they get that deal done. I know that people don't like other clubs getting complimented on their business, but it is. It just is a good move for them. Dennis says Arsenal fans need to take a chill pill. All these meltdowns, you would think that we have the worst squad in the world. Plus, when will people start trusting Edu after he's proved them wrong every time? People are too proud in their opinions, Dennis, at the end of the day. If you're not on the Edu train at the moment, you never will be. So it's a bit late to even jump on it right now. I mean, you got to hold your hands up, admit, you got it wrong about Edu at this stage, because he has done an excellent job in squad building. PW says, Tom, we missed out on selling Maitland-Niles because we wanted more money. I don't think that's actually accurate. I think that there is a big misconception about Maitland-Niles. It's like, it wasn't a case of wanting more money at all. Like, it was a case of they actually thought that at the time, with Maitland-Niles performing the way that he was performing, he was in the England national side, he was starting for us. I think they just thought that, the money came in, they weren't willing to sell for that fee, but actually the primary reason was because they saw him with a future at Arsenal, and that's why they were more willing to turn it down. Mark says, Tom, is Solanke the clinical finish that we should have been interested in? I mean, did he look clinical against us in America? I think the clinical was the last word that I'd use to describe Solanke's performance against us in pre-season, to be fair. I like Solanke, don't get me wrong, and I think he's a better striker than Richarlison. He's a better striker than Timo Werner. So he is an improvement for Tottenham, definitely. But is he going to be their next Harry Kane? I don't think so. I don't think so. But he's a decent signing for them, and improves their striker position. And he might do well there. I'd expect him to score plenty of goals. And he'll probably be a factor in a lot of people's fantasy football teams. He comes straight out of mine, because if as an Arsenal fan, I can't have a Tottenham player in my fantasy team. I don't betray my club for fantasy points. Are you mad? No chance in hell. Brendan says, TC, do you think that we come out big at Villa and set the record from last season right in the second game of the season? I see it's a bit of a red game for us on FPL. It is difficult because we don't have the best of records against Villa, and we lost against them twice last season. And Unai Emery has an excellent record over Arteta. I think that they will want to use this game as a real motivational factor to try and set a statement going into the game against Man City as well. It's a big, big game for us. people say that Arsenal have got a tough start, and they're right. But I actually think Arsenal have got an opportunity. I think this start to the season is a real opportunity. Imagine Arsenal win their first 3 games, and that includes wins over City and Villa away from home. What an amazing opportunity that could be for Arsenal's season. So I'm actually happy with who we've got to kick off our season. Of course, it could all go to, you know what, if we don't win those games and we drop points early. But I'm actually, I'm glad in a way that we've got this situation. I'd rather play City early. I'd rather play Villa early. I think it's an opportunity for us, especially after the performance that I saw against Bayer Leverkusen. We're scary. A lot of you are asking about fantasy. I've got my first day off in a long time, so I'm going to set the fantasy up today. Okay, you've got my words. I will set the fantasy up today, and then we will be able to renew the league. And if you're already in the league, you'll be renewed into the league. But yes, I will be setting up the fantasy league today. Okay, so I'll get all the information for you for the tomorrow morning's show. Let's go to Dapper. Says Arsenal fans are so used to having a mediocre squad that they want us to sign vast numbers of players. We have a top team. It's hard to improve on, and it takes time to identify available players to improve us. It's a point that we've made, and it's a point well raised. Improving this Arsenal team is incredibly difficult. Incredibly difficult. So it's not like we're Man United or Spurs or Chelsea. We aren't those teams. We are better than them. I actually saw a fantastic graphic by Scott. Was it Scott Willis? I think. Let me double check. Scott Willis, who is of course a big part of the Arsenal Vision guys and their stats, and you can find all his stat stuff at Canon Stats. But he had this brilliant graphic. Let me see if I can throw it up on the screen for you. Stop screen, share screen. Here we go. Scott Willis tab. So this is Chelsea's business. Transfermarkt valuations of players are not, to a T accurate, but they are something of a it's something of a good ballpark, if you like, for player valuations. So what this is, and actually no, this is the wrong one. This is the Arsenal one. So this is where Arsenal are at. So let me show you Arsenal first, right? Because actually I think it's worth it. So Arsenal's player, what we bought players for based upon their estimated value and the sale and the transfer sum. So if you take into account Calafiori, Raya, Rice, Havertz, Timber, Jesus, Vieira, Zinchenko, Trossard, Kivior, Jorginho, Matt Turner, Marquinhos, which is all the deals that we've done in the last 2 summers and this summer as well, actually. So from 2022 to 2023 and 2024, Arsenal are currently in the black, as you would say, by 30 million euros. So we have bought players for 30 million euros less, all the players in those summers, less than what their estimated transfer marked value was on the website, right? So that's where we stand in terms of, and again, it is an estimation. Now, if we have a look at the Chelsea version of this, which is quite a lot bigger, as you probably would imagine, this is the Chelsea version. So in the last 3 summers, including this one, Chelsea have signed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In fact, I'll just name them all. Dewsbury Hall, Philip Jorgensen, Amari Kellerman, Aaron Anselmino, Renato Vega, Caleb Wiley, Mark Gui, Tosin Adarabio, Moises Caicedo, Romeo Lavia, Christopher Nkunku, Cole Palmer, Axel Dizazi, Nicholas Jackson, Leslie Akunkjokwu, Robert Sanchez, Jordi Petrovic, David Washington, Angelo, Diego Moreira, Enzo Fernandez, Wesley Fofana, Mihajlo Mudryk, Mark Cucurella, Raheem Sterling, Kalidou Koulibaly, Benoit Badiashile, Noni Madueke, Malo Gusto, Kani Chukwuemeka, Cesar Casadei, Andre Santos, not that one, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, David Datro Fofana, and Gabriel Slanina. They are all the players that Chelsea have bought. Where Arsenal were 30 million euros estimated in the black, Chelsea are 325 million euros in the red. They have overspent on players, according to their estimations, by more than 300 million euros. It is a brilliant piece of work by Scott. Really simple, and anyone could have done this, but it takes the person who does it to get the credit. Absolutely stunning kind of dumpster fire levels of transfer work done during the Todd Bowley era. Arsenal's spending, Arsenal's astute business, when you compare it to a spending model that, let's be honest, there's a reason why we bring this up, because so many Arsenal fans have just wanted Arsenal to spend loads of money. Arsenal don't spend. Our owners don't invest enough money. They were the calls that you would hear. It is way better, and this is why I say to you time and time again, it is way better, way better to sign players that you have astutely looked at in detail and over a longer period of time and considered than signing players for the sake of it. And Chelsea have signed players for the sake of it. And that is the difference. And then you look at where the two teams are. One team's in the Conference League next season, having not been in the Champions League or any European football last season. You know, they had an entire campaign where they didn't have the extra added fitness issues that European football brought with it, and they got back into the Conference League. You know, that's where they are. Arsenal have just competed for 2 successive titles, and are looking to do so for a third time and hopefully go one step further and, of course, compete in the Champions League and be established back in the Champions League again. It is just night and day. So for those that are still not convinced by Arsenal spending and have wanted Arsenal to spend big and go, you know, all FIFA career mode on things, it's just night and day. And you've got to put that faith into the work that they are doing, because what we are doing as a club is very impressive and very, very encouraging indeed. Let's go to Zek, who says, improving the players we've got is probably more efficient than getting new players this season. In most cases, Havertz, Jesus, and Nelly can significantly improve our numbers if they get good. And, you know, this whole thing about, you know, Havertz, you know, I think I saw a comment from somebody earlier saying, like, they're not convinced by Havertz yet. And I'm in my head, I'm a bit like, okay, I kind of get it. But saying that you're entirely not convinced by Havertz at this stage is a bit confusing, because Havertz produced some really good numbers last year, despite the fact that he played 2/3 of the campaign in midfield in a position where, for the majority of the season, he was still transitioning, and has now ended up getting something like 14 goals across all the season, and getting, you know, close, I think, to 10 assists across all competitions as well. It was a really strong season from Havertz in the end, in a campaign where he, for at least half of it, there was a lot of question marks, you know, surrounding that. So if you actually have a look at his stats from all of last season, just going to get this up here, he had 21 goal contributions, 14 goals, 7 assists. Like, that was a really good return. So to say that you're not convinced, and I'm not saying, Zach, this is you, by the way, just others, just say that you're categorically not convinced by Havertz, I think just means that you've not taken off your negative tinted glasses from the start of last season, and then you're not willing to see what he's done and the improvement he made in a really difficult season for him. Came good at the end, and I hope that we're going to see again another improvement in his form moving forwards to the forthcoming year as well. Ashley says, why do people keep saying that we need a Saka backup? How do you convince a player, plus the player can't be also a bit of a dud? Saka is built like a machine, and Arteta and is like Arteta's child. Alvarez leaving because of Haaland. I think that it's important to point out that we do need depth, and I don't want to call it a backup, but we need depth in that position. But I think you do that by bringing in a versatile forward that's going to get opportunities, not just playing instead of Saka or coming on for Saka, but that can also play at left wing, can play perhaps maybe through the middle, can play as maybe a second striker at times. You know, that's the type of player that you bring in, and they need to be a competitor. That's why I like Neto, because I know he's versatile enough, but I know he's got those injury issues. So we absolutely need to bring in a player in the forward area before this window closes. I really do think we need to. And I would take the gamble on Neto personally, or go to Bayern Munich and say, how much do you want for a Leroy Sané? I'd be more than welcome to look at those two options. I know a few people have been talking about Kingsley Coman. His injury record is, like Neto's, quite bad. But again, maybe it's worth taking a bit of a gamble on those wide players. It's not worth taking a gamble on the centre forward, I don't think, this summer. I don't think it's worth taking the gamble on the centre forward this summer. I think that next summer is the summer to really look at the centre forward and really look to bring in our version of Haaland, basically. And maybe that ends up being Šeško again, who has perhaps he has a really good season at Leipzig. I guess we'll have to see. Barry says, Havertz will get 20 plus goals this season. He's a great point man, and he works hard and is a bit of a beast. Honest Gooner says, Tom, I always like it when any player proves to us how good they are, how good they will be. Me too. Sriracha says, Tom, did you see the news of Arteta hiring professional pickpocketers at a dinner with the players? I guess fresh ideas are needed to foster motivation. I think Arteta, it's not about fresh ideas. It's just about, I think Arteta is looking to, just inspire his team. He likes these quips. You think about the Amazon documentary, how many little analogies, how many little case studies and practicals he did to try and inspire his team and to represent to the team what he wanted, whether it was light bulbs, whether it was little drawings on the whiteboards. He wants to inspire. He wants to keep his team switched on and to surprise them. So I like it. I think it's inspired. I think that he's always looking to do new ideas. And at the moment, you can't really judge it because it's working clearly. It's clearly worked, and Arsenal's improvement as a team and to what we did last season and the season before, and hopefully this forthcoming season, is a huge indication of these strategies working and having a really positive effect on the team. Yes, we don't have to mention the "You'll Never Walk Alone" speakers thing, but it's the idea of it. Arsenal have now gone to Anfield twice in a row and avoided defeat and come away with a really important point. And I'm hoping that we go to Anfield this season and win. That season we didn't, but ultimately that in some ways that experience, that defeat, that really harrowing defeat at Anfield, I think it was 4-0, that's a learning process. That's a learning curve. And the last 3 times I think we've gone there, the last 3 out of the last 4 times, we've avoided defeat. So that's a really good record to have at a place like Anfield. Arthur says, Havertz is not sure where his best position is. We praised him yesterday for playing well in midfield. Now we're saying we don't need another striker. Havertz will get us the goals up front. I don't think everyone's saying we don't need another striker. I think Arsenal do need to bring in a striker. I just don't think that this is the market for it. I don't think this is the summer for it. I think next summer gives us a much better chance of getting the one, the guy that's going to take us forwards. Adwaith says, I'm happy that Arsenal is standing firm on player valuations, but do you think doing that against French and Italian league sides where they don't have as much money or aren't willing to spend money would work? Well, I guess we'll see is the answer to that. I guess we'll see. But we stood firm on our valuation of Balogun, and we got a huge amount of money for Balogun. We got well over £30 million in the end for Balogun and a very good sell-on fee on top of that too. So I'd argue, yes, you can still ask for the money that you want. And that's really key. Phil says, with White, Calafiori, Rice, Odegaard and Arteta, do we have the best looking team in the Premier League? Oh, whoa. I think you're forgetting a few people there. White, Calafiori, Rice and Odegaard. Havertz is a good looking man. Jorginho's a good... Have you seen the picture of Jorginho lying on the ground with the ball? I'm sorry. Jorginho is a good looking man. I think David Raya is a good looking bloke. Saliba's a very good looking guy. I think you're harsh, mate. I think we've got a lot of very good looking players, actually. We are handsome 11. So yeah, Reece Nelson, very good looking guy. So Phil, I think we got by far the best looking team in the Premier League, but my goodness me, you've left some players out there. You've left plenty of players out there. So there's some we have a very handsome side. Thank you very much. Ward says the "You'll Never Walk Alone" speaker blast tactic was replicated by the Springbok rugby coach at the World Cup last year ahead of our game against France. He blasted the French anthem all through training and it worked. They're just ideas. They're just tactics. They're just strategies. They're a bit wild. They're a bit wacky, but they're worth trying. They're worth doing. Vanity says, what's happened to Ferguson at Brighton? He was meant to be the next big thing with a £100 million price tag. Did he get a bad injury or has he had just one good season? It's a classic case, unfortunately, of an 18-year-old being very much overhyped. He's a very good player, and I think he's got a really good future ahead of him, But people wanted to jump on the Ferguson bandwagon very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. Siraj says, Tom, do you prefer Calafiori's hair or Arteta's hair? Oh, you can't get past Lego head. Come on. You can't get past Arteta's hair. It's the best hair in the biz. I'm actually quite liking that it's going a little bit grey as well. I think it gives it personality. I have a feeling that he might dye it. Feeling that it could get dyed as it starts to go. I don't think he's going to want to showcase his I could be wrong. But the perfect hair. Did you see there was like a video clip going around of it? Like, I don't know if it was real because I haven't actually seen the video, but I saw a little still of it where the caption is like, "Is your hair real?" And it's like Calafiori talking to Arteta. I don't know if that's real or not, but I saw the picture of it. Let's go to Troy, who says we are not better than City. They've shown it time and time again. They rarely crack under pressure. That is why that they are 4 in a row. But they are, but their City and our attack needs to be better. I mean, the fact that they are better than us is not a surprise, is it? I know we need to add a forward, but there isn't a forward that suddenly makes us better than. There's not a forward that makes us better than City on the market at the moment. There's no signing that we can make that makes us better than City. There are signings that we can make that closes the gap, but there's no signing that we can make this summer that makes us better than City. We can only be better than City by beating them ourselves, by going and winning the title and proving that we can be. But right now, we're not better than them. And I think we need to add it forward. I think that goes without saying. And I hope that we do. I hope that we do add a forward. And I'll be disappointed if we don't add one between now and the end of the window. So yeah, I hope that we add a forward, but it's still going to be a very intriguing end to the window, that's for sure. Honest Gooner says, should your wife be worried about your comments about our good-looking players? No, mate, because as somebody who's very secure, I can say somebody's good looking without immediately causing any reason for concern. So Nicholas says, if playing on another team's song in training works, then brilliant. And if not, then no harm, no foul. You tried something. Who cares? Ajmal says, I hope Arteta's challenge for Havertz is to get something like 20 plus goals this season, just like Alex Ferguson asked Cristiano to get 40 goals in 2007, 2008. Yeah, I think that should be a target for Havertz this season. Try and get 20 plus goals across all competitions. Jim says, how many points did City take from Arsenal last season, though? 2. That was it. And we took 4 of them. Again, our record against the big teams last season was very good, except Aston Villa. And Aston Villa were ended up being the crux of our season. So we need to overcome that. That's going to be really important. Anyway, thank you, all of you, for tuning in. There's nearly 1,800 of you watching, which is mad, across all of our platforms. There's actually nearly 500 of you on social media. If you do watch on Twitter, thank you. But please hop over to YouTube. It helps us out way more, and you can get involved in the chat box as well. So tomorrow morning, live, bright and early at 8 a.m. every single day, UK time. Make sure you go over to YouTube and watch us. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Do drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show if YouTube decides to actually remind you. I'll be back with you, of course, bright and early tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. to round up any of the news that's been discussed in the next 24 hours. And hopefully we have some more news going into that game against Lyon about potentially 1, maybe 2 more signings and some outgoings as well. Enjoy your Friday. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy, stay respectful, and as always, up the Arsenal.